crowd at that moment. Have there been people who have tried to create the image?
Absolutely.
But we can't get whatever precisely happened on this cloth reproduced right now with all of our technology today.
I mean, if you'd asked like Da Vinci and Einstein to create some sort of image using advanced technology that wouldn't even be available for at least 500 years later, so it would have been easier for them to have launched the Hubble spacecraft and to design there rather than to come up with the shroud.
The image appeared like a burst of energy that created the image on this shroud.
The thing, Trey, is that the shroud is just absolutely, truly extraordinary. I mean, no one in the world is able to duplicate this.
There is no image on the whole earth like this one on that cloth.
Staying with some friends of mine called the Newsboys, a band from Australia. I was just sitting in as a guest artist one night, and I walked off stage, and it was about like 98, I think, and we just played in front of like 2,000 people, and so you can get a bit of adrenaline going when you've got a big crowd like that. But a couple of hours later, I realised something was amiss. I ended up in the ER. They told me I was going to die of a curable heart disease.
So we got some lanterns, and believe it or not, if you're able to actually go on the other side of this and above it and get into the monastery, there's a walkway between the structures where there is an entrance into the ground.
But when I stopped playing my guitar, it was almost like the Holy Spirit filled in places that I stopped playing, and so some of the praise band guys, because I have that reputation of being a good virtuoso guitar guy since I was on Atlantic Records all these years, and so they turn around going, wow, what's Casper doing on a guitar? It's really amazing. I never heard a guitar sound like that, and I wasn't playing at all. It was just this sound that just, this cosmic sound that just surrounded us.
Speaking of mathematical prophecies, I think you're going to like this one. This comes out of Ezekiel 4. Ezekiel is prophesying Israel's time where they're going to be booted out of the land in captivity, etc. God has Ezekiel sleep on one side of his body for 40 days. These, of course, represent years. Has him sleep on the other side of his body for 390 days. Again, these equal years. This makes a grand total of 430 years. Now, the Israelites spent 70 years from 606 to 536 BC in the Babylonian captivity. This leaves a remaining balance of 360 little year guys down there. Now, watch this.
There's a team of Italian researchers, I think it was in 1995, they were actually the ones that helped invent the standard DNA testing for gender.
Here's an excerpt from the DNA results of the blood taken from the Shroud of Turin, published in Italy. This is what it reads. What is astounding about these genetics that they've tested from their shroud?
What is astounding is the fact that we've got proof of a virgin birth.
The X chromosome is present, but there is no evidence of a Y chromosome. This is the expected signature of a virgin birth. That's quite an entry in the journal, doctor. And this blood on this shroud is missing the Y.
Yeah.
And that's a science fact.
That's a fact.
We went over the top of Joseph's garden.
Yeah.
We got over the top. On that walkway, an old ancient walkway, we removed one of the stone sections of the walkway. Underneath is an entrance to a cave.
So this is the mathematical prophecy of Israel's return to the land in Ezekiel 4. And Ezekiel lived in 600 BC. That is 600 years before Jesus Christ. Israel had spent 70 years in Babylonian captivity. So that's out of the 430 years that were prophesied by Ezekiel. This leaves a remaining balance of 360 years. But wait, God had stated that he would times that by 7 if they rebelled again. They crucified their Messiah. I would call that a times 7.
And you see the door?
Yeah.
This ancient, like this hinge piece carved in and everything?
Yes. Yeah.
When you go through there, you get into some other catacombs, and it takes you deeper and deeper underground.
On this burial wrapping, I'd like to draw your attention. It's not just that all of the blood marks and the intense scourgings, surgeons that have looked at this, it's amazing that he went to that. Those scourgings are deep, and the crown of thorns, you can see there's intense swelling on the, he was beaten to the face a lot. Because of the lack of compression on the back, if you laid down on a Xerox machine, you could tell that what I'm saying is this, that at the point that this image was made, the body was levitating. From a scientific perspective, the image was made from an emanation of multi-directional light that made an impression of three-dimensional data onto the ancient, like a photo negative, onto an ancient cloth. Notice this, a fraudster would not have known to put the nail through this part of the hand, what we would call the wrist, what the Romans would have called that's where they would put the nails through, right there. And on top of this, one little detail, in him was the life, and that life was the light unto men, the light that shone in the darkness, and the darkness overcame it not. There's no thumbs shown on there. When you put a nail through that part of the wrist, the thumb bends inward, just like you see on this image right here.
You see that?
Yeah.
All right. Until finally, you get to some places where you learn they used to bury the dead kings in these catacombs and caves directly behind the Garden Tomb.
These are 360-day years, just like you find in Enoch. Enoch had 4 extra days of remembrance, or in any of your ancient calendars. This brings us to a total of 2,520 years of Ezekiel's prophecy for the rebirth of Israel. So, if I go from 536 BC and I add in my 2,520 years, it brings me precisely to 1948. 1948, that's called on the money. Now, it's in that same haze of time period where you got news articles about aliens that can't fly their spaceships. Dimensional technology. Come get your alien technology. Chop, chop. No time to waste. In fact, if you were to work out the precise days of that prophecy, it would come to May of 1948. This newspaper right here is from May of 1948. I told you that God goes surgical with these things.
We get to the base where the bones of the dead kings were gathered, and all all went down in some, like they bury a guy and break his bones and drop it into this area here, and that is a whole bunch of bones of dead kings. Just beyond that wall, a few feet, is the garden tomb. Now, listen to this prophecy. You've littered my tomb with the bones of your dead kings. And guess what? Those are bones of dead kings just a few feet on the other side of where he was buried.
That is astounding. So, and that's full of bones even right now.
Exactly.
I just remember dying. I mean, my body, I just remember it happened very quickly. There was nothing I could do about it. And I remember being out of my body. I remember standing there, wondering why my body was lying on the ground, but I was still standing.
I'm borrowing from my friend Casper McLeod when I state, when you pay for something, you get a receipt with an itemized list. Every stripe, every scourge mark is on there. You can count them if you like. The king who set down glory for his friends. The king that paid the highest price to set you free. And he didn't leave here without making sure that you had a receipt, a scientifically unreproducible receipt. You were still alive even with the body laying there.
So I would tell people, when you leave here, you don't lose consciousness.
The word revelation means the unveiling.
I was fully conscious, but I realized I was in another dimension.
What is being revealed is not the spookies, the goons, and the ghouls. The unveiling is an unveiling of the king. Before Albert Einstein died, one of the very last men he was writing back and forth to, maybe the last man, was Immanuel Velikovsky. And clearly, reading his work, the acclaimed science crowd, the political funded science crowd, they attacked Velikovsky and had his books banned from the universities. Velikovsky was arguing that their timelines were all wrong, that Darwinism, evolutionism were ridiculous, and that he thought the universe might be electric. But more than all that, Einstein's pen pal Velikovsky, who the political science guys were terrified of, was arguing that the Exodus was real and that he thought he could prove it. Velikovsky got the Pharaoh of the Exodus wrong. Good guess, though. I think in this modern age, we can do better. We're going to prove the parts that they don't want us to prove most.
Your Excellency, Mr. Sam Kusia, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations.
I said at the very start that this was going to end well.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the President of this General Assembly, the Secretary General of the United Nations, for your leadership in convening on a very important agenda item.
In fact, there was more than a doctor. There was a nurse that happened to be named Anita, and she was experiencing the same thing, that there was no heartbeat, there's no pulse.
You are looking at a miracle. By all medical expertise, I'm not supposed to be alive. On November 12, 2003, I fell dead of a massive heart attack in the airport in Sydney, Australia. I was clinically dead 45 minutes.
I already had diseased kidneys from drinking for like 15 years and doing hard drugs. And I had kidney disease on top of that. So when they shot the poison in me, both my kidneys failed.
In the natural world, this pastor was commanding the spirit of death to come out. And then I saw it from a heavenly perspective. I saw my body lying there. I saw the pastor and I saw the doctor. I saw Dr. Terry Allen.
And they're around your body and you're watching this, so you're still conscious seeing them.
Yeah.
Both my kidneys failed, and I was on dialysis in the hospital for a month with no kidney function, and I just shriveled up into skeletons and bones. You put me up into the top room to die.
Well, the demon pushed me to suicide myself. They find my body and they put it in a car to go to the hospital to try to see if they can save me. And in the car, I woke up outside my body.
And then I flatlined. And when my body jerked, I let my breath out. I heard the machines going. And I'm like, what's going on? I can still see. What's happening? What's happening? And
I recall I was able to see everything in the world all at the same time, which is pretty hard to explain.
They administered CPR, resuscitation, and they gave me 10 electric shock treatments to my heart. The blood had coagulated already in my hands and my arms, in my feet and my legs.
So you were seeing in the spirit at that point?
I don't
It
know.
wasn't with the eyes or...
I was in my body, but not alive. It was like my spirit was still in my body, and I could see.
And I saw all the demons. I thought they were my friends.
Wow.
And they were waiting for me to welcome me in hell.
I'm like, oh no, I can hear myself talk, but I can't move my lips and I can't move my body. And I look over to my right, and there's two little gargoyle alien-looking grays.
There was absolutely no hope for me at all. I was just a corpse. They took my body and put it on a stretcher and carried it to an ambulance.
So I started the process of death.
And these demons, these creatures were around you.
They were waiting for me above me because I was like attracted out of my body to stay. I wanted to stay because when I saw them, I didn't want to die. I wanted to go back in my body, but it was impossible. I was like attracted outside.
He saw demons.
I saw the pit.
And demons.
You saw hell?
I saw the pit, the black pit open up between me, and I saw the little demons next to me that I used to think were aliens, but they're demons.
And the paperwork had been finished, and it was DOA, dead on arrival at the hospital.
And so that voice that spoke like we're speaking now was an audible voice. And I mean, I've been in enough recording studios now, you can't just, manifest a voice out of thin air.
What did these creatures look like, Alan?
Well, they didn't look at all like I saw them when I was down here.
Okay.
They look horrible. You can think about the worst good special effect in Hollywood of, ugly demons, and it's like 1 million more. It's not human. You cannot express. It's terrible.
So,
Like little body beings with little bald heads, big craniums, big eyes like cat eyes, like demon, and little sharp teeth, like little gray aliens.
When all that medical science knew to do, and with all that was at their disposal to administer, it did not work.
Because I remember the pastor speaking very authoritatively, and I couldn't understand any language on earth anymore. And I realized he wasn't speaking to me, he was speaking to something sinister behind me, and that thing just vanished. And I remember being surrounded by this angelic presence.
It was a bottomless pit of blackness, and it was crushing. It was like crushing my soul. It was bad.
The heat.
I knew it was hell instantly, and I knew God was real instantly. I was like, oh no, I screwed up. I'm about to go to hell.
But in the ambulance, just a corpse lying on that stretcher, Jesus stepped on board that ambulance, and my heart began to beat.
It's Jesus. It's God who came to save me.
Demons laughing, and I see the pit become a consuming blackness, and I'm about to fall into it, and I said, no, please, Jesus, not like this. I'll do anything. And then instantly I was healed.
the dark thing when you felt it go away, so when you felt an angelic, so you saw the people, your body was here, and you saw people around you, and you felt an angelic presence around. There was an angelic presence around it. This is right?
This is right, yes. Correct. I felt this incredible light and the presence of angelic beings around me. I don't know for a fact I could describe them, except that they were big.
And the breath came back. The driver was startled. The paramedic was startled.
And suddenly, when the Lord brought me back, it kicked the hand off the pulse because the blood just surged and kicked the thumbs off.
Having been clinically dead for 45 minutes with no breath and no heartbeat, I asked the paramedic later, I said, Nigel, what happened when you shocked my heart? He said it would beat 3 or 4 times and it would stop. We know that after 6 minutes or less, with no oxygen to the brain, there is irreparable brain damage.
And then I remember opening my eyes, and it was the rudest awakening coming back into this world, into this dimension.
Warner von Braun, unarguably a brilliant mind, ex-Nazi and friend of U.S. President Kennedy. Now that's a colorful career. The head of NASA's space program appears to have had one last message for the people of Earth before he left out of here. He was quoting King David, who wrote, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands."
We decided to check your DNA. He said, when we checked your DNA, he said, when God raised you miraculously from the dead, he removed the APOE genetic marker for heart disease out of every cell in your body. He said, that is impossible. It's impossible. He said, only God could do such a thing.
We're bad. After this, the doctors, they're
They just didn't know what to think of it. They're like, you're lucky there's a miracle here. We don't even know what to tell you. We don't know how your kidneys are working, but they're working.
So I saw the doctor kind of fly backwards and look up in amazement and astonishment, saying, how did you do that? And the pastor was looking at the ground saying, I didn't do that. The Lord Jesus did that. I asked him to do it. I asked God to do it in Jesus' name. He did.
May these words of my mouth and this meditation from my heart be pleasing in your sight. Thank you for watching Entities, the Unveiling by the God in a Nutshell project. Lord, you are my rock and my Redeemer. That is not a soft Bible scripture.
Finally, a doctor looked at me and he said, you have defied all the laws of medical science. I looked at him and I said, I didn't, but I know the one who did. His name is Jesus.
May God himself, the very maker of the heavens and the skies above, bless every last one of you on the other side.